Today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
It is? Jesus.
It is, actually. It comes every year. Here, at least, we're happy when it comes. And one of the ways that you'll normally know that it's going on is that Twitter and Facebook and the news will become rife with MLK videos and quotes. A lot you'll see very often. There are some that are a little bit rarer, that delve into the not just focused on race aspects of his legacy and of his mission when he was a leader in the African American community. He was very interested in questions of economic justice, about the decision to go to war, things of that sort. And so we want to focus on a few of those. We're going to read some of the quotes you're less likely to see on MLK Jr. Day. The first is, "So we have been repeatedly faced with the cruel irony of watching Negro and white boys on TV screens as they kill and die together for a nation that has been unable to seat them together in the same schools. So we watch them in brutal solidarity burning the huts of a poor village, but we realize that they would hardly live on the same block in Chicago. I could not be silent in the face of such cruel manipulation of the poor." So he was a big critic of the decision to go to war, especially what he saw as incredibly unjust wars. And it is ironic that, this is one of the areas that our country has not changed all that much. It is still overwhelmingly the poor who fight our wars. And very often you will see, social justice and social progress in the military long before you will in the rest of the country in terms of integration and things of that sort. That we expect them to go and destroy homes abroad, but they wouldn't share them here in America is an odd commentary on our country.
Yeah, it's one of the great, toward the end of King's life, his opposition to the Vietnam War became a bigger and bigger part of his platform, and for lack of a better phrase, but translating that to what it should be, which is a war on poverty here at home, talking about poor Americans, and not necessarily just black poor Americans, caused a significant divide with him and some of the people who'd stood with him in the civil rights movement. But it's another example, and I'm not saying that those people who opposed him in that regard were wrong, but it is another example of the sort of great courage on every level of this man who risked his life. For those who've seen Selma and those who are familiar with the history around there, who risked his life throughout the 1960s on a regular basis, showed great courage in that regard, but great political courage also. That if he saw something, he thought, no, this war is wrong, and poverty in the United States to this extent is wrong, and a lot of those poor people are white, and I'm going to fight for that too. It really makes you. There's so much to think about where this guy would have gone and what direction that he would have gone into the 1970s if he hadn't been murdered.
Yeah, and it shows that he understood that racism isn't just the natural condition of humanity. Like, it can be manipulated, and one of the biggest ways that you work to generate more racial division, racial strife, is to keep a certain class of not just African Americans, but whites as well, poor. And you make them fight for the limited resources they see around them locally, and then they become more anti-immigrant, and they become more anti-black because they think that they're fighting over the few jobs, the limited amount of wages. And so he saw that fixing poverty would also fix a lot of the racial division that we saw in America. I really like this quote here. He says, "True compassion is more than flinging a coin to a beggar. It comes to see that an edifice which produces beggars needs restructuring." And what I love about that is very often the most compassion you can get out of religious conservatives, and especially religious Republicans, is to say, we don't need a social safety net. We don't need anything like that. We can rely on the churches to do charity. And they would do charity. They do charity. They give away tons of not just money, but also food and shelter and things like that. But simply giving someone a few dollars so that they can maybe eat that day is not the solution to all of our problems. You can question the underlying structure of our economy that not just ends up with poor people, but seems to require a pool of poor people to function the way that it does. And he thought that we should question the actual structure.
Can't disagree with you on anything.
Good. That's the way I aim it. One day we must ask the question, why are there 40 million poor people in America? And when you far more now, and when you begin to ask that question, you are raising questions about the economic system, about a broader distribution of wealth. When you ask that question, you begin to question the capitalistic economy. You begin to ask the question, why is it that people have to pay water bills in a world that is 2/3 water?
Did he say?
That's a great point.
Redistribution of wealth?
He did. He seemed to favor.
Communist motherfucker.
Yeah. He could become president, but he would be attacked daily on Fox.
Yeah,
perhaps.
and again, look, it was our first story. We redistribute wealth. We We redistribute wealth. We redistribute wealth.
We do all three of those things.
There's
on
a
daily basis.
redistribution of wealth in this country. And there always has been. From the first tax that we took, we used it to pay something else.
Yeah.
And that's how it works. And let's kill that phrase. I mean, every time Fox says it, let's just call them liars, deceivers.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what they're doing.
I don't even, like, I think that we should probably destroy it because that's more likely to work, but we could have people understand that it doesn't just mean one thing. It doesn't just mean stealing from the rich to give to the poor. When capital gains taxes are at 30%, and then you lower them to 20%, and then you generate less revenue and states realize, oh shit, we need to start instituting fees and things like that because we still need the money that we're not getting anymore. That is a redistribution of wealth. It's just not the way that you've been raised to think wealth will be redistributed. Science investigates, religion interprets. Science gives man knowledge, which is power. Religion gives man wisdom, which is control. Science deals mainly with facts. Religion deals mainly with values. The two are not rivals, they are complementary. I like that he's trying to bridge the gap, but I disagree with the distinction that he makes there. I don't think that you need religion to talk about values. I think that science can talk about values.
Read the quote again.
And far more accurately.
It took you 2 seconds to say something dumb.
Let's bring it back up.
Put the quote. I'm like, yeah, I can't. You're brilliant. Like, he doesn't say.
He said science deals mainly with facts, religion deals mainly with values.
Does he say that you need religion to have values in there? Show me that sentence.
He says they're complementary.
Does he say
implying that they need to both exist?
No, he says, right, he is fighting to show that the world of religion can exist in a world of science. He is standing up to the people in religion who fight science. But of course that's what
yes.
I don't think you do.
I think that all too often, even extremely liberal, extremely trusting in science people will mimic, don't give me the fail stamp, will mimic that idea that science can say nothing about values. I fundamentally disagree with that.
He doesn't say that. He is saying the role of religion is to provide values. He doesn't saying the role of science isn't, or that the role of religion, without religion we can have no value.
He was anti-science. He killed Galileo.
He is literally doing the thing that we're begging religious leaders to do. That quote is at 10.
Okay, agree to disagree. You guys fight it out in the comments.
No, it's pronounced San Diego.
Okay, one final quote. This was a bit controversial at the time. Over the past few years, I have been gravely disappointed with the white moderate. I've almost reached the regrettable conclusion that the Negro's great stumbling block in his stride towards freedom is not the White Citizens Council or the Ku Klux Klaner, but the white moderate, who is more devoted to order than to justice, who prefers a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice.
Now, what was wrong with that one, John?
I want to read that one because I think that especially after the situation at Ferguson, the situation in New York City, I think that there are many people who do not think of themselves as holding any racial prejudice or animus, and generally thinks, I don't look down on anyone, I'm totally fine with everyone. But then when the group that they're super tolerant towards starts to actually fight for what they believe in.
Literally ask for anything.
Ask for any justice or investigation. Suddenly now it becomes a bigger problem. I'm not against them, but come on, do you really have to protest? Do you really have to burn things?
I won't call out anybody by name because I love this person dearly, but one of my mom's friends, and I was in Florida this week, and my mom is a big liberal in Florida, but most of her friends are conservatives, and this is a woman who, I couldn't love more. She's fantastic. She's great. But here comes the but. She just doesn't get it, you know. And there's a fair amount of talk about the blacks and the, you know, and like, why can't we see movies that she remembers fondly that are pretty hideously racist now? And you know, and she's like, and I think every time we give them something, it just sets them back. And again, it's because after, I'm sure it is, after Ferguson and after Staten Island, that we see what made her uncomfortable was this demand of change. Like, hey, why are you always complaining? Stop. Yeah. And like, and I get I'm a good person. I'm not a racist. I think you should be equal. I think everybody should be equal.
I'm just not willing to have it happen.
And I'm not ready to accept that there's a real reason why things aren't equal. Like, ultimately it comes down to shut up and work harder.
Yeah.
So it was frustrating, but I stuck to it, and we argued, and I made some, I got some points in. But again, she's great, and I care about her a lot, so what are you going to do?
That's awesome. Okay, well, so anyway, look, it's an important time of year, not just to reflect on his legacy, all that he accomplished, all that he might have accomplished if he hadn't been gunned down, but also to take a look at his quotes and to realize that much of what he was talking about then is still just as true today.